Hello and welcome to this episode of Health and You. I am Sumi Sukanya Datta, and the topic of discussion this week is a new definition of obesity by the Lancet Commission on Endocrinology that has also been adopted by two key institutions in India doing research in this area: National Diabetes, Obesity and Cholesterol Foundation, Fortis T-Dog Hospital, and All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi. To discuss this, we have two eminent guests, Dr. Anup Mishra, Executive Chairman and Director of Diabetes and Endocrinology at Fortis T-Dog Hospital, and Dr. Naval Vikram, Professor of Medicine at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Thank you, Dr. Mishra and Dr. Vikram, for joining the chat today. Dr. Mishra, will start by asking you first why there was a need for updated obesity guidelines and definition from several critical factors. Also, how is the new definition different from the old definition of obesity?
See, the need has been there for last a decade or more. And it's not that we are the first to make an attempt. Other people have already made that attempt. And those who are in this area know Edmonton obesity staging, where something like what we are doing was applied in a much more complex manner. So there were several stages in that obesity staging, and that took an account, apart from the body mass index, which is the usual measure, plus the diseases, including diabetes, obstructive sleep apnea, mental health, and so on. So it was a very complex way of looking at things, but initiative which was taken almost a decade back. Only thing is, it never became popular. The reason being that it is so complex that to be adapted by a person who's sitting in the frontline area somewhere in Rajasthan, rural area, just one or two rooms and just weighing a scale. I don't think that was possible with this type of
Mhm.
distribution. So
Yeah.
the initiative by Lancet was made more than a year back, and the expert felt that apart from BMI, which has its own fallacy, for example, it may underestimate obesity or overestimate obesity. I'll give you a simple example. A, a worldwide, uh, federation wrestler or our own wrestlers, they have their weight is quite high. Their body mass index is above 30 in all accounts. All wrestlers have body mass index above 30, and they'll be counted as obese. But actually, they are not. If you take their body fat in account, then they are non obese people. They have a lot of muscle, they have a lot of bones, but less fat. So, this is the fallacy of body mass index.
Mhm.
Similarly, if you look at Indian body, they have not much of a weight, most of us, and yet our body fat is high. So
Yeah.
by body fat, we'll be counted as obese, and by BMI, we may not be counted. So both underestimation and overestimation was a problem with BMI. We realized that let me tell you, 22 years back, I debated on this subject alone in International Obesity Conference in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And there was a very eminent person against me, and we were debating on BMI itself. So this debate has gone on. Only thing is the steps being taken by such an eminent journal as Lancet is only recent.
Yeah.
So it was time to add several other conditions along with the BMI. And the most important condition to be added is abdominal fat. Why abdominal fat? Because this is the harbinger of several diseases. If you say why obesity is important, is because of excess abdominal fat, because that's where the inflammation arises, that's where the sugar is being made, that's where heart disease risk goes high. And interesting enough, the abdominal obesity is widely prevalent in Indian population, though their weight may not be to so much, but abdomen will be protuberant.
Yeah.
So, to include abdominal obesity as a prominent feature of new definition was very much important, and it
And much
is
needed.
a long time coming.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, add to that several diseases like the diabetes, etc., and also mechanical dysfunction because of obesity. Altogether, we have to see which obesity is not so bad and which obesity is bad, and so the preclinical and clinical obesity terms have been given to these two types of obesity.
Yeah, very interesting points there. Dr. Vikram, could
Yeah.
you have also been doing a lot of work related to obesity apart from some other series as well. Could you simplify for our viewers how will the new definition and the new guidelines aid the diagnosis as well as management of obesity, the way we know it as of now?
See, the earlier, as Dr. Mishra suggested, the earlier definition was relying to large extent solely on body mass index, that's BMI.
Right.
And BMI, as rightly put, is not a very good differentiator between the muscle, the fat, the bone. So, based on just a BMI, if BMI is normal, you just relax. That's not the thing which is true for several ethnic groups, particularly Indian population. So, their BMI, this new commission by Lancet or this new definition says that you have to have a confirmatory evidence for uh, high body fat, preferably
Mhm.
done by a direct measurement of body fat by several methods which are available. But that again, it's easily said than done, because no, the simple methods which are used are bioimpedance, which is the various machines are available. A same person measured on different machines may give different results. A whole body DEXA scan, which is a whole body kind of an X-ray, that gives an accurate measurement, but again, it's not easily available everywhere. Not everybody can have an access to it. So, in addition to BMI, it has been proposed to have another measure, like a measure of abdominal obesity. So
Mhm.
waist circumference, waist to hip ratio, or waist to height ratio. So that in addition to BMI, one is clear that the person is having abdominal obesity, even if the BMI is normal. Because this is important. Abdominal obesity, as Sir said, that it is fat accumulated in the abdomen is highly active and it is a bad fat. Basically, it's a bad place to accumulate fat in the body. So that is the harbinger of several problems: insulin resistance, diabetes, etc. So, sorry. So abdominal obesity measure has to be there. And again, it's this new definition simplifies that everybody who's obese doesn't need to have a same kind of a thing, same kind of measurement, same kind of things. But it has to be clearly notified that clearly differentiated that a person who's detected to be obesity, having obesity, based on these measures, whether the person has a organ dysfunction or a body dysfunction or a limitation in the daily activities or any organ dysfunction. So if that is there, then the person is has been defined as a clinical obesity. If there is any clinical problem, but if that is not there, then that person has a preclinical obesity, or earlier this term metabolically healthy, overweight, or obese. This term has been quite frequently used. That a person is otherwise metabolically and otherwise healthy, but is obese. So this is probably that situation, preclinical obesity. But again, this preclinical obesity is not a permanent situation. It is just a temporary phase, because it has been shown clearly that over a period of time, the person may progress from preclinical to a clinical obesity. And that is where it's important to have intervention to prevent the progression from preclinical to the clinical stage. And of course, if the person has clinical, then appropriate management is required. And that is why this new definition simplifies the way a person is diagnosed and categorized as having what kind of an obesity.
Absolutely. Dr. Mishra, we heard both of you and Dr. Vikram saying that how abdominal obesity particularly is very prevalent in Indian population. Do we understand why we are are we genetically predisposed to this condition, or why exactly does it happen?
Well, nobody knows why it happens. There are several theories about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the theories is that when we didn't have food, we underwent so many famines, and so people were starving. And it's like poverty that you get some money, you put it somewhere, in your tijori or whatever gullak आप जो भी कह लें. Um, Similarly, the energy is best stored as fat. So, on those days of famine, the energy was stored in the abdomen. So, if you are suppose going without food for a couple of days, slowly and slowly, fat will dissolve from abdomen and give you energy. Why abdomen? Because there's a lot of space there, and so it won't go to brain, it won't go to legs, it will go to abdomen. So this has a sort of a build up into our system for centuries together. Now that we have more fat, the body has not forgotten that, and it tries to accumulate more fat in the abdomen. This is a theory which many people say, but nobody can prove it. Of course, there is also uh, another theory that it is not only the abdominal fat. What is abdominal fat? Is fat below the skin or inside the abdomen. Both two types of fat, subcutaneous fat and intra-abdominal fat. So it's not only abdominal fat. It is the fat in other organs also, which are important. Some other abdominal organs are liver and pancreas. The pancreas secretes insulin, which controls our diabetes or sugar. Um, so the fat inside these organs actually makes them dysfunctional. So liver becomes dysfunctional. It pours a lot of cholesterol, etc., triglyceride in the blood. It also pours several substances which can impair the heart. And once pancreas has fat, then the insulin production goes down. So when we talk about abdominal obesity, we talk about totality of fat inside and below the skin, and inside the abdomen, and inside the liver, and inside the pancreas, and inside the kidneys also. Um, there are other theories also. For example, those who have abdominal obesity may also have more fat around the heart, what is called as epicardial fat. So it is more complicated than just saying that abdominal obesity. It is as we research more, we know more, but it is very difficult to give you a simple one answer that why Indians have more abdominal obesity. We don't know. But the fact is that this has been going on and it is exacerbating now with the progress and more energy intake that we have, and it is causing so many diseases. And that's why we are having more diabetes, more fatty liver, we have more cardiac problem, more blood pressure, more cholesterol problem, all these arising from this simple uh, depot of fat.
Yeah. So now we know that, BMI for long has been a very popular way of measuring if somebody is obese. But, as of now that the definition changes, there is a lot of emphasis on measuring body fat rather than just BMI. What are the ways for a layman, for a normal person to know if they have excess body fat? Do we need to go to a doctor's clinic every time for this? Also, nowadays we see a lot of these devices which are there at gyms, at your nutritionist clinic, at public places also. Are they actually reliable when they tell you that we can measure your body fat so easily by you just standing there? Could you, Dr. Vikram, could you please talk about it?
Yeah. As I said, body fat measurement, a lot of devices, this bioelectrical impedance. Simplest one is when you stand on them, and that gives you passes the current through the body. And if more fat is there, there is more resistance, and based on that algorithm, it gives a measurement that this is your body fat. Again, the problem with that is not all kinds of. There are several kinds of machines which are available. Not all kinds of machine have been standardized properly to the Indian population. Only a few which are there, which have been used for research purposes, and they are accurate. Accuracy in terms, what I'm saying is the accuracy in terms of the measurement.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most important thing. Because as I said, a same person, a measurement taken on five machines will give a five different percentage of fat. Somewhere it will give you 25, other one may give you 30, other one may give you 31. So again, that is what I'm saying. These standardization of these several machines is not accurate, and that is why the measurement done by these machines is not, uh, unless and until they are rigorously standardized, they are not widely acceptable as a research tool.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a major limitation of these machines. And as in many places, I don't know whether it is right or not, the machines can be, some machines can be tweaked as well to show maybe a little bit of more fat than what you are, for obvious reasons that the person may need some intervention, and some intervention is advised. So
For
those
commercial, for
for
commercial reasons.
purposes. So all kinds of things are possible in that. That is the reason the standardization is a problem there. Now, the accurate measurement of body fat, if one needs to do so, whole body DEXA scan is, as I said, is the gold standard as of now. But again, we may not need to go there unless it is required for a research purpose. Measurement of BMI is important. Measurement of waist circumference is important.
So, for instance, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to understand. For example, I say that my BMI is fine. I measure my waist to hip ratio, and that is fine within the limits. Then can I be assured that now I'm within the safe limits?
Possibly, yes. Because if BMI is normal and your waist circumference is normal, or your waist to height ratio is all right. So these are the two major measures of generalized obesity and abdominal obesity. If they are fine, then even if your percentage body fat may be a little higher, that is not going
Mm-hmm.
to cause any immediate problem. All right.
Okay.
So if you are in the safe range because of with both of these measures, you are in the safe range. Then you have to continue whatever you're doing to maintain it that way. So these are the
Mm-hmm.
simplest method. Again, waist circumference measurement is something which needs a real. I mean, but it has to be done properly, because somebody may measure the waist circumference over the navel. Somebody may measure it just below the ribs. Somebody may measure it just above the bones, hip bones. So that different sites of measurement will give you a different value. So again, that is something for that a person who's trained in doing the measurement should be he or she should be doing that. So, and once you know the you know your height, weight, and your waist circumference. Only three measures. One, BMI is normal. That's good. Your waist circumference is normal. That's very good. Or if your waist is half of your height, that is perfect. So
Yeah.
even if it's slightly more, then the target is to get it down. So simplest thing for a lay person would be keep your waist half of your height. That's the simplest thing one can say.
Okay. Okay. That's a very important and probably a very memorable message out there. So, Dr. Mishra, can you please talk about, the way one key message that this new guideline has is, treating clinical obesity. So, what are the interventions possible as of now and also available in India that people can benefit from when it comes to clinical obesity?
So first, let me just clarify that we are not ditching BMI. There is no way we are ditching
Yeah,
BMI.
absolutely. Yes.
Or
In
even
addition
in
to BMI.
studies,
Yeah,
large
yeah.
scale studies, BMI is still stand. And in our classification, which is India's classification, the actually assessment begins once the BMI is about 23. Then there is a bifurcation into stage 1 obesity and stage 2 obesity. And what Naval has been talking about is stage 2 obesity with a high waist circumference, high waist height ratio, and organ dysfunction and mechanical dysfunction. That is stage 2 obesity. Now, the why we have made this classification stage 1 and stage 2 as far as the Indian classification is concerned, and they coincide with the preclinical and clinical obesity in Lancet classification, is to rationally apply the treatment. So, stage 1 obesity. So, say somebody who has a BMI of 22.5 a waist circumference of male, waist circumference of 85, waist height ratio of 0.45, and no sugar, no blood pressure, no cholesterol disorders, and liver is fine, such person is stage 1 obesity. Uh, so this person with a slightly high BMI, sorry, initially I said 22.5, 23.5. So slightly high BMI with a normal abdomen, as Naval said, and no diseases, no mechanical dysfunction. Stage 1 obesity, we maintain good lifestyle, good exercise, good diet, and try to lose a little bit of weight so that the BMI goes down below 23 and he doesn't develop abdominal obesity, no other diseases. This is our aim. Now, the second person is a BMI of 24, for example, who has a waist circumference of 100, a male with 100 waist circumference is high, waist height ratio of 0.55, uh, elevated blood sugar, elevated blood pressure, a high cholesterol. This is stage 2 diabetes, stage 2 obesity. Here, we take care of the weight as a primary measure driving several of these disorders. And hence, in many such circumstances, we use drugs. And we use drugs which can impact several of these diseases, as well as they also impact the weight, body fat, waist circumference, etc. If further person has a further high BMI, we and the waist circumference is also higher than what I have described, then we use a powerful drug called semaglutide or GLP-1 receptor agonist. So this is the bifurcation, and which is very rational. Allocation of our resources is not according to BMI, but according to problem that it creates. And those who have a problem, we use more intensive therapy, including drugs. And those who do not have a problem, then they therapy is mostly confined to diet and lifestyle. And if they suppose gain weight and convert to stage 2 diabetes, we also change our strategy.
Yeah, very insightful information. Dr. Vikram, while we know that obesity is the mother of all NCDs, as we say, but probably in our public programs, health programs, especially, obesity hasn't really got the kind of attention probably it deserves. What would you say about that, and also the need to sort of include it and club it with other NCDs, which is now recognized as a major public health problem?
So there is a public health program, the national program for there is obesity, fatty liver, cancer, cardiovascular disease. So for there are national programs for every particular infectious disease: national malaria control program, national tuberculosis elimination program, national filariasis elimination. So there are different national programs which are related to particular infectious diseases as a whole. But there's only one program which has clubbed all the non-communicable diseases, which is the National Program for Obesity,
NCD, yeah.
for NCDs. So it is all clubbed under one, possibly because most of the NCDs have a common
Lead.
risk factors.
Yeah.
But again, among that program, somewhere the emphasis on obesity gets lost. So I think that needs to be uh, more in focus as a national program, because that needs to be focused, because it is something which is preventable. All right, and something which is preventable and is going to prevent rest of the NCDs as well. So something which is more focus has to be put there, and with these new guidelines from our Indian guidelines as well as the international guidelines, I think now things are being simplified, and this needs to be and more focus has to be done in the medical school as well, because earlier in the curriculum, also in the medical school at the MBBS level, there was not much teaching on the lines of obesity. There was
Mhm.
nobody, whereas there were lectures and other things for the other diseases, but obesity was something which was not emphasized on. I think there also changes are happening, the revisions are happening. So at the medical school level also, this needs to be incorporated, which is being done, that what is this and why everybody has to know about it. It's not only that people who are experts and who are working in the field of obesity are the only ones who have to be aware about it. Everybody has to be aware about what causes obesity, how to know whether the person is obese, and how to like in this new classification, what stage the person is, and maybe further what can be done. A lot of it can be done at the first contact.
Yeah.
When things go not manageable, only then the person needs to be referred to an expert. But otherwise, a lot of it can be done at the place of initial contact, where I would say that a proper, scientifically accurate information or advice to the patient or answer to the patient's questions, that is lacking. I think that needs to be strengthened to a great extent.
Dr. Misha, you also feel that at the preventive level itself, obesity should be seen as something that should be tackled at the primary, health level, and our physicians at the grassroots level should be more aware about it and talk about it. So make
Absolutely. I think it is not much talked about. It is not much taught. It is not much disseminated. And 2 decades back, we started a program, a school program, where we told children about the ill problems associated with the obesity, and that they can at that time calculate their own body mass index, their own waist circumference, and uh, categorize themselves as overweight or obese, and look at their diet, look at the exercise. So it is at the school level that we have to strike. It is the school teachers that we have to disseminate this knowledge, as well as mothers. We have to. Most of the children who were obese had obese mothers, so it is a family thing. So mothers are the focal point, and mothers have to be taught what to give to the children, how much to allow, how much physical activity needs to be done. As far as the school is concerned, it is the school teacher as well as the school health physician who's looking after the health of the children. They must be actively involved, and not to have children go, gain weight. To have every child participating in physical activity, and the school canteens to be healthy. All this must start at the school level. Unless we do that, the wrong habits are developed over a period of time, and very difficult to leave the moment person is 25 or 30 years of age. And I must say that in India, obesity has become a norm. A person is a little fat and say, "Oh, you're normal." And the moment person becomes a normal body mass index, a normal waist circumference, you're looking weak. You lost weight. So this is the mentality at this point of time. I see it every day. I'm sure Nawal sees it every day, and this must be eradicated. A person who's strong, thin, is the person who's going to be devoid of the diseases, who's going to be devoid of difficulties associated with obesity.
yeah, the irony of our times is if you have a normal body weight and if you are seen in a gym, then you are people will tell you that why are you in the gym in the first place, because unless you are obese you shouldn't be in the gym. That's the mindset people have. Dr. Vikram, to that brings us to the end of the discussion, but if you could please quickly share some actionable points for our viewers on how to prevent obesity in the first place, it will be very useful.
See, prevention, the most important thing in the prevention, the pillar, the backbone of prevention is always the diet and be physically active. Diet is that a balanced diet, I would say, a home cooked food as much as possible, home cooked balanced diet, avoiding the foods which are all processed, ultra processed, or fats, foods which are high in sugar, salt, and
Right.
fat.
Yeah.
Sugar, salt, and fat, whatever has high amounts of these, just avoid those. And I think that alone goes a long way. And most of the ultra processed foods have this. And I think being physically active as much as possible, if you can take out time for a structured physical activity, excellent. That is the ideal. If you cannot incorporate physical activity as much as possible in your daily life, take stairs instead of elevators or escalators, park farther away from where you want to go. I mean, incorporate walking as much as possible, simple walking, because your non-exercise uh, activity thermogenesis or calories that you burn by daily activity itself is to a good extent. If you involve that, you may not need to go to the gym, etc. And now I think recent data says that even if you don't want to have 10,000 steps or whatever, you you climb a few flights of stairs a couple of times in a day. That is also quite
Good enough.
effective. That incorporate activity in your daily life and stay away from foods which are high in sugar, fat, and salt, and ultra processed. I think this basic thing goes a long way in preventing obesity.
Very doable things, those, and I'm sure our viewers can benefit from those points. Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra and Dr. Vikram, for taking time out from your busy schedules to talk to us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.